Hi guys, my name is Min, and as you can see from the title, this video is going to be about a beginner's guide to crochet and basically the general things you need to know before starting crochet. If you don't know me, I'm actually a TikTok crochet artist and I blew up there quite a bit ago with this video and also this video. Ever since those videos blew up, a lot of people really asked me how to do crochet, and I'm really sorry for the people who've been waiting for so long. I know it's quite overdue, but I've been very busy with my school. By the way, if you notice me look down, it's because I'm looking at my computer and I'm checking the details to make sure I'm not rambling on. So this video will be divided into 7 parts. The first part will be just a brief history on how I started crochet and how maybe it could help you in your journey. The second part is the materials needed. The third is how to hold the hook and the yarn. The fourth is the basic stitches. The fifth is the sample items that are great for beginners. And the sixth is the tips and tricks. And finally, it's going to be a question and answer portion where I answer some of the most common questions I get about crochet. If you want to skip to a certain part of the video, then you definitely could. I will leave timestamps in the description below. However, if it's your first time hearing about crochet, then you should definitely check out all the parts of this video so that you can understand. Without further ado, let's start the video. Now, the reason I started crochet was actually because during the pandemic, I had developed a obsession for shopping, and I would go buy clothes without having to actually wear them out because there was nowhere to go, and I felt like that was very harmful to the environment, which it is because overconsumption does really harm the environment. You know, you'd have a lot of clothes but then not actually wear them, and then you just throw them out after a while, and that's very harmful to the environment. I first learned about crochet from TikTok. There was like a lot of people doing crochet and I was like, wow, this is so cool. It took me some time to search about a lot of like videos on crochet before I even started, so that's one thing I would suggest. If you're starting out with crochet, I would suggest watching a lot of videos before you start because it will give you a general idea of crochet and how it's supposed to be done and what you can make from them, and if you're really willing to commit to crochet. Now, I started crocheting in May this year, and I know that a lot of people actually get really surprised by that because I haven't been crocheting for a year, but my pieces have been very good and I've done a lot of pieces which surprise other people. Everyone takes different times to learn a hobby. Although I learned it really fast, a lot of people take around years to learn, and I don't want that to discourage you. You need to be patient when you're doing crochet. Having that in mind, I hope you guys realize that this is really something you invest your time into, your thoughts and your heart before you start crochet. Now for the materials you need when you're starting crochet. I'll be categorizing the materials into 2 categories, the need now category and the need later category. The need now category is for people who really want to start on crochet but they're not sure if they're gonna commit to it. So if you want to save money, then I would suggest only buying the need now materials. If you're a crochet artist or a person who wants to become a crochet artist and you're sure you're gonna commit into crochet, I would suggest buying both the need now and the need later materials. For the need now materials, there are 3 materials that I included: yarn, hook, and scissors or yarn cutters. Now for the yarn, there are definitely a lot of different kinds of yarns out there, and it's very confusing because there are categories for the yarn. It could be very overwhelming, but if you're a first timer, these are the yarns that I would suggest you buy. For the first yarn, I would definitely suggest milk cotton. Now milk cotton is probably the most common yarn that I see on the internet. Most YouTube tutorials actually use milk cotton. One of the reasons why I highly suggest this yarn for a beginner, because you will have a lot of reference videos to watch for milk cotton. And also, it's a very forgiving yarn because it is very stretchy. So if you're gonna make mistakes on the measurements of a top, a headband, this is very good for you because it will stretch for about a bit, and it is very helpful for beginners. Now, if you're a Filipino like me, I would definitely suggest to go for Indofill yarn. Now, Indofill yarn is a lot thinner than milk cotton yarn, and as you can see, it's actually separated and they're not like combined together like this. Compared to milk cotton yarn, it's intertwined into one big strand. Now, Indofill yarn is not like that, which might be a bit hard for other people, so that's why I don't recommend it as the first beginner-friendly yarn. But the reason I really love this is also really soft, and for the skin, it's not that hot to wear, and it's very comfortable for me personally. Another reason why I suggest Indofill yarn is because this is a locally made Filipino product, and I always try my best to promote Filipino products. I always have this, and majority of my yarns are actually Indofill. Now, the last yarn that you can buy as a beginner would be acrylic yarn. It is a bit rough like this, as you can see. It's a bit rough, but it is just as thick as the milk cotton, and if you're making as a beginner just a headband or a bag, not a clothing item, then this would be very much fine, and it's a lot cheaper than milk cotton. As a beginner, I would also recommend this, but for clothes, I would not recommend this. It's a bit itchy to the skin, personally for me. The next material are hooks, and hooks can be a bit confusing as well because there are a lot of different sizes, but don't worry, YouTubers include the hook size that they're using for their projects. And if you're a first timer who will commit to crochet, I definitely suggest buying a whole set right off the bat because I feel like it's cheaper as a whole set rather than buying them individually. But if you're just a beginner and you're not even sure if you want to commit to crochet, I would suggest for milk cotton yarn, I would suggest getting the 4mm hook. This is a 4mm hook, and this goes well with milk cotton yarn, and a lot of tutorials online use this. The next one is, for Indofill, I would suggest 3mm hook or a 3.5mm hook. And for acrylic, I would also suggest either a 3mm hook or a 4mm hook. Now, the reason why there are different sizes of hooks is because there are different sizes of yarns. For example, if you use a smaller yarn but a bigger hook, then the spaces in between the stitches are gonna be really big. And if you're making clothes, it's really a bad thing, and that's why it's important to know the size that is appropriate for the yarn that you are using and for the project. Now, the last thing in the need now category are scissors or yarn cutters. This is a yarn cutter, and basically what it does is it just cuts the yarn. So for example, this acrylic. So I'm just gonna put it under my yarn cutter, and I'm sure everyone has seen scissors. So if you have either of those, then it's fine. You don't need to buy a yarn cutter if you have scissors. Either is fine. Now let's move on to the need later category. In the need later category, there are 3 materials as well: stitch markers, measuring tapes, and darning needles. Now, stitch markers, they might be very confusing to a lot of people. Basically, stitch markers look like this. I don't know if you can see it, but here it is. As a beginner, when you're making stuff, you could get lost in counting. That is the main reason of a stitch marker. It makes sure you know where you started, especially when you're making like amigurumi like this. Amigurumi, a tiny plushie. Like the circles, you have to make sure you know where you start and end in the row. If you're a person who can count your stitches, like be very detailed about the counting, and you're sure about it, then I don't think you need this right now, and that's the reason why I put this in the need later category. Now, the next thing in the need later category is a measuring tape. Measuring tape is basically just tape that's used to measure. I'm pretty sure everyone's seen that, but I'll put a picture here for those who haven't. And this is important because if you're trying to make clothes, to measure your bust and your body to make sure that the clothes you make fit you. Now, the last thing you need is a darning needle. This is a darning needle, and it looks just like a regular needle, but the hole is very big, and it's meant for yarn, like this. And the reason you need this is, for example, you have ends, and there's this term that you need to weave them in, like sew them into the clothes again so that the ends don't untangle. Also, these help you with connecting squares or connecting panels for crochet. For example, you're making a hat made of panels and squares, then you will need this to connect those two panels. But I put this in the need later category because in the beginning I would just slip stitch panels, which I will tell you about slip stitches later. But basically I would use crochet stitches instead of a darning needle to connect everything and to weave in my ends. Now that we're done with the materials, let's move on to how to hold the hook and the yarn, as well as the concept of tension when dealing with yarn and the hook. Here I have my milk cotton yarn and my 4mm hook. Start by teaching you how to hold this. Now, you can hold the yarn with your less dominant hand. For example, you use your right for writing, then you must hold your yarn with your left hand. So everyone, by the way, has different ways of holding their yarn, but if you're gonna follow me, then you can just try this, but there are different other ways to hold this. So first, what you're gonna do is you're gonna lay your hand flat like this. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna get the yarn, put it over like this. And now I'm gonna hold the edge over here with my pinky. So now we're gonna twist this over here. So we're gonna go behind that finger and bring it forward. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my middle finger and my thumb. I'm gonna hold this yarn with both. So that's basically how to hold the yarn, like this. Now the thing about this is the reason that I hold it like this is because there needs to be tension when you're crocheting. So for example, this shouldn't be too loose, like this. So if I just do it like this, it's gonna be too loose because there's no control, right? So that's why this basically controls the flow of the yarn to make sure there's not too little yarn and not too much yarn going through, and that the tension is just right, like this. So now let's go on holding the hook. The hook is pretty easy because it's just like how you hold a pencil. So I hold it like this, or like this. I think I hold it like this more, but it's basically just how you hold the pencil and then you just follow through with that. And it's easier when you're following the pencil hold because you're used to it when you're writing. So I personally recommend that. So that's basically how you hold your hook and your yarn. Now that we know how to hold the hook and the yarn as well as the concept of tension, we can now move on to the basic stitches in crochet. Now there are many stitches out there that you can try, but if you're a beginner and you have no idea what you're doing, then I would suggest learning these stitches first, because these are like the foundation stitches and the easiest ones you can do. Now the things I'm going to be teaching you guys in this segment are going to be the how to do a slip knot, how to chain, and then the 3 basic stitches, the single crochet, the half double crochet, and the double crochet. What we're going to do is we're going to teach you how to slip knot. And slip knot is very important. It's like the basic of every crochet. So you can't make crochet without learning this. So first let's have our yarn here like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to lay it flat like this, like how we would hold our yarn, lay it flat in the middle. And now we're going to use our thumb to hold this tail end in the over here. So hold it like that. And then what we're going to do is, as you can see here, we're going to separate our 2 fingers a bit, our pointer and our middle finger. And we're going to wrap it to the back like this, and then bring it back to the front, right? And then once you reach the front that's facing up, you're going to make an X like this. And then just round it back to the front. Okay, so if you're gonna turn around, it's gonna look like this. If you're having a hard time following, then please just slow down the video, no problem at all, or watch it again. But here you have like an X in the palm facing up, and then at the back you have like these 2. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get our hook, or you don't even really need your hook for this. You can just use your fingers, and you're gonna go beneath the one in front here. You're gonna go beneath that, and you're gonna pull the other one through. So still holding this, just pull it through. We're gonna hold the knot over here, pull it through like this, like that. Now what's wonderful about this is you can adjust it. So let's take our hook, for example, let's put it inside. Now if we pull this long part, not the one with the end, if we pull this, you can see it adjusts itself like this. Now it perfectly fits our hook. Okay, so now that we have our slip knot, I'm gonna show you how to hold the yarn that we have a slip knot now. So we're gonna take the longer part that is still connected to the yarn ball, and we're gonna put it at the bottom like this. And just like a while ago, we're gonna hold it with our 2 fingers, or with a pinky, and we're gonna wrap around the pointer. And these 2 will be holding this knot. You see this knot over here? We're gonna be holding that part with our 2 fingers, our middle finger and our thumb, like this. Okay? So yeah, that's how it's done. Now I'm going to show you how to chain. Now this is like the base of your crochet. For example, this. So this at the bottom here is the chain. And then I just built up with crochets after that. So how long your chain is going to be is going to determine how wide your crochet piece is making. So now we're just going to hold our yarn the way we did a while ago. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a roundabout. This is called yarning over. So we're going to go backwards in a circle and back front. If you're having a hard time, please slow down the video, it's totally fine. And once you have that, you're gonna have 2 loops on your hook. Now make sure this pointy part is facing down, facing here, because it's gonna be the one that's pulling the yarn. So now that we have 2 loops, we're gonna pull our hook like this. I'm gonna pull the yarn out. So now we have 1 chain. It's like a braid. Now let's do it again. Back and front, yarn over. That's called yarning over. Now we have 2 loops. Just pull it through like this. Yeah, now we have 2 chains. As you can see, you can count your chains by like the braid parts. This. Now I'll do it one more time. Around and front, and just pull through the yarn. So now we have 3. 1, 2, 3. So that's how you chain, and you can just add however many chains you want. Make sure it's not too loose so that you can control your yarn properly. Like if it's loose, it will be so hard like this. It wouldn't look nice because it would be inconsistent. And it shouldn't be too tight, or else you can't pull any more yarn through your chain. So that's how you chain. And now we're actually gonna start with the crochet part. So here I have 10 chains. Let's count that so that you guys will know how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 10 chains here, and I'm going to be making a single crochet across this with 10 chains. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is whenever you're doing a single crochet, at the end of your chain, always add an extra chain like this. Chain 1, an extra chain. So now, typically I have 11 chains on this hook. So now what I'm going to be doing is, I'm going to skip the first, as I said, skip the first chain. And now we're going to go and put our hook inside the second chain. You see this like V area over here? This, you're going to put it inside, like this. So it's going to look like this. It's going to have like 2 loops. Now what we're going to do is we're going to yarn over. Now around and front. Okay, now we have 3 chains, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to pull the loop that we just added through this middle part. We're just going to put through the middle part. Don't pull it through all the way, just this one. Okay, so we've yarned over. Now we're going to pull through the hole like this. Right? Now we have 2 loops on the hook. Now what we're going to do is we're going to yarn over one more time. And this time we're going to pull it through both loops. Like that. So now we have 1 single crochet. Now let's move on to the second one. We're gonna go inside. Okay, I'll show you again. See this V area here? We're gonna go inside that. We're gonna yarn over once, pull through only the middle part. Now we have 2 loops, yarn over and pull through both. Now we have 2 single crochets. Now you can count these single crochets from the top. As you can see, there's 1 V and another bead. It's like a braid almost, so 1, 2. Now we're gonna do a third one. Go inside the loop or the V and yarn over, pull through only the here. Now yarn over, pull through both. That. Now just keep going with that. Like that. Now we have 4. You can count 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're gonna put it inside again. Yarn over, pull through only 1. Yarn over, pull through both. Yarn over, pull through, and yarn over, pull through both, like this. Now I'm just gonna be single crocheting until the end. You can see, guys, this is our last loop over here. Now I'm just gonna do a single crochet here. And now, as you can see, we've finished our single crochet chain. Now, as you can see, it looks kind of weird and it's curling up. What I'm gonna do is you're gonna pull it, this, pull it a bit. As you can see now, it looks a lot firmer, and you can count your chains. As a beginner, I would definitely recommend counting your chains every time. Depends on what you need. So for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now we have 10. Put our hook back, and this is our first row, guys. This is our first row of single crochets. Now we're gonna make a second row. So what we're gonna do is reach the end of the row. We're gonna add a single chain. Chain 1, right? We added a chain 1. Now we're gonna flip our work. Flip. So now we're gonna be working from this end towards this end. Now let's go inside. As you can see, guys, right? You see the V, guys? The V on top. We have to get both of these loops on our hook. So we're gonna go through here. As you can see, there's a hole. If you guys don't notice at the top. Now we're gonna go through this first hole. Make sure you go through both. So I'm gonna show you a top view. As you can see, both of the loops on the V are on my hook, right? 1 and 2, and then the third loop, which is the original loop. Now we're gonna yarn over. We're gonna do the same thing. Yarn over. This time we're gonna pull through both of these loops, like this. And then we have 2 loops again on our hook, and we're gonna yarn over, pull through both, like that. Now, as you can see, we have a second one. Just gonna go inside there, yarn over, pull through both, yarn over, pull through both, like that. I'm gonna go inside the third one. So you can see, it's really easy to distinguish these holes. When you're doing them right, you can see them at the top here. I'm gonna put this, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through both. Okay, so here I'm nearing the end of my crochet, and as you can see, I'm just gonna stretch it out a bit. As you can see, it's almost at the end. Now the end part is actually a bit difficult for the second row. So as you can see here, it's not that easy to distinguish because it looks like it's part of the first row. So here what we're gonna do is we're gonna go inside here. It really is a bit hard, sorry. I finally got it through both. Make sure both loops are here, like this, 1, 2. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through both. Now to double check, we must always count the V's at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now we have our second row of crochets. And as I told you a while ago, the chain determines how long or how wide the crochet is, like this. And the more rows you build up, the longer it's gonna be. So So I'm just doing 2 rows here, but you can practice. You can make a 3rd row. Don't forget to always chain 1 before you begin another row, and then turn your work and just single crochet to the end. So that's a single crochet. As you can see, it looks beautiful. Now that I've shown you how to do the single crochet, we're now going to be moving on to probably my favorite stitch, the half double crochet. Here we have again our 10 chains at the beginning. Now some people like to do 2 chains, adding 2 chains to their half double crochet, but I personally just like doing like a chain 1. So chain 1, and now what we're going to do is just like the first stitch, the first single crochet, we're going to skip the first stitch and we're going to go into the second one over here. Now what we're going to do is actually, before we get inside the loop, we're going to yarn over like this. We're going to yarn over once. Now we're not going to pull through anything right now. Once we have 2 loops on our hook, we're going to insert our hook inside the second chain. This. Now typically you have 3 loops on our hook. Now we're going to yarn over, right? We're going to yarn over. We're going to pull through only the loop that we got into, only 1. So now we pulled it through. We have 3 loops on our hook, like this, 1, 2, 3. And now what we're going to do is we're going to yarn over one more time. And this time we're going to pull it through all 3 loops on our hook. 1, 2, 3. Ta-da! Now we have 1 half double crochet. Let me just show you that, guys, again. Now we're going to yarn over before entering anything. Now we're going to locate the next chain, put it inside, yarn over, pull through 1, and now we have 3 loops on our hook, right? Yarn over, pull through all 3. Now we're just gonna keep going, and as you can see, it's just like the single crochet wherein you can count the top. So we have 2 half double crochets already. We're just gonna keep going. You can see here we have 1 chain left, and we're just gonna put inside that as well, like this. Yarn over, pull through 3. Now just like the single crochet, we're just gonna stretch it out a bit. And as you can see, this one is my absolute favorite. It just looks so good. So a bigger version, so you can see, this is actually half double crochets, as you can see. At the end of the row, right, we have 10. Let me just count to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Very good, consistent. Now we're gonna chain 1 at the end, chain 1, and turn our work. Now as you can see, we have the holes at the top like this, the loops, and that's where we're going to be entering. Again, we're going to have to go inside wherein both of the V's are going to be in our hook. So we're going to yarn over, right, and we're going to put it inside this hole. And now we have like 4 loops on our hook. 1, the base loop, and then the yarn over, and then the 2 at the V, right? Now we're gonna yarn over, pull through the V. Now we only have 3 loops over here. Sorry. We're gonna yarn over, pull through all 3. Like that. Yarn over, put inside this. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through 3. Now again, if you're having a hard time following, definitely can slow down the video or just go back. Now we are at our last stitch. As you can see, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We only have 9. That means we have 1 left. Now as you can see, it's kind of hard to distinguish. It looks like it's just the end. So make sure to count your chains at the top, your V's at the top, to make sure that it's consistent. So I have to make sure to get into this last hook loop over here. Got both here. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. Now we are finished with our second row. It should look like something like this. Ta-da! Now if you want to build this up, then just continue doing the same thing over again. Chain 1, turn your work, and just half double crochet across like that. So it looks really pretty. It's my favorite. Now we're done with the half double crochet. Now that we're done with our half double crochet, let's move on to the last stitch that I'm showing you guys. And here we have again our 10 chains. You guys can add as much chain or use as little chains as you want. It's just gonna determine how wide our crochet is gonna be, like this. So I'm just gonna do 10 for practice. And now what we're gonna do this time, instead of chaining 1, we're gonna add an extra 2. So 1, 2. So now I have 12 chains on my hook, right? Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna yarn over. It's almost similar to the half double crochet. Let's yarn over once. Now we have our 2 loops. This time we're gonna skip 2 chains. So this is our first chain. Our second chain, we're gonna skip both of them. We're gonna go into the third chain like this. Go inside. Now we have 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over again. So now we have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're gonna pull it through this one over here, just like our half double crochet. Just like our half double crochet, we have 3 hooks again, but this time we're gonna yarn over, and this time we're gonna pull through only these 2. We're gonna pull through only these 2 and leave this one here. So what we're gonna do is gonna pull through 1, 2, like that. And as you can see, we still have the extra loop over here, and we have 2 loops on our hook. Now we're gonna finally yarn over, and we're gonna pull through both of these like this. Now let's just do that again onto the second chain. No more skipping, just go directly to the next chain. Yarn over, right? Put inside the next chain. Yarn over again. We have 4 loops on our hook. Pull through only this one. Now we have 3. Now we're gonna yarn over. We're gonna pull through only these two loops. 1, 2, and now we have 2 loops on our hook. Yarn over, just pull through both like this. So you can see we're at the last. Now let's just do the last one. Yarn over, put inside, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through only 2, yarn over, pull through both. Now as you can see, guys, here's the double crochet. It's a bit taller than the half double crochet and the single crochet. And as you can see, it's a lot more spacious. There's a lot more space in between. So this is why it's not my favorite. It's faster to make projects with double crochets. It's faster to finish, but there's gonna be spaces like this. And so I don't typically use this for clothes. That's why half double crochet is my favorite. Now that we're done with our first row, let's move on to our second row. We're gonna chain 2 this time. 1, 2. Unlike the first 2 crochets I showed you, this one is gonna have 2 chains. 1, 2. Now I'm gonna flip our work again, skipping these 2. We don't touch them. We're just gonna go into this. As you can see, again the same, the loops over here like this. Now we're gonna do it again. We're gonna yarn over, put it inside this, and now we have like 4 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, pull through that, pull through the V. Now we have 1, 2, 3 chains on our hook. Yarn over, pull through only 2. Now we have 2 loops left. Yarn over and pull through both again. Now let's do it again. Now the more you practice with this, the more you're gonna get better. As you can see, I'm a little bit faster now. It's definitely just practice. Yarn over, put inside. Yarn over, pull through the V. And now we have 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through both. Yarn over, pull through both. So now again, as you can see, the last one is here. Yarn over, put it inside our last loop here. I have both here. Yarn over, pull through that. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through the last 2. And here we have our second row of half double crochet. It's definitely a lot faster to build this up because it's a lot longer, but there's a lot of spaces. And as you can see, if you use a bigger hook, then the spaces between these are gonna be bigger. If you're gonna use a small hook, the spaces in between are gonna be a little bit smaller. So this is our double crochet. Now that I've taught you all 3, you can go back whenever you please so that you can learn again. And please keep practicing so that it's consistent. Don't forget to chain at the end, like before you start a new row. Chain 1 or chain 2 depending on the stitch you're doing. And hopefully that was helpful. Just keep practicing and definitely you'll get used to it.
Now let's move on to sample items that are great for beginners. Now there is a reason why I'm including this segment because I feel like this is very important. If you start on a project that is actually hard for beginners, like it's more to the intermediate to the advanced level, it could overwhelm you and make you stop crochet just as you start. I actually had this problem at the beginning. I started with amigurumi and I was about to make a baby Yoda crochet, which was a terrible mistake because I was about to quit crochet just as I was starting. Thankfully, I had a motive to pursue crochet because of the shopping addiction, and then I had to give a gift to someone. Those motives pushed me to do crochet, but if I didn't have a motive as strong as that, I would have given up on crochet. Now, the first project that I would recommend for absolute beginners would be headbands. This is the first headband I've ever made, and this is one of the very first projects that I've ever made as well. And as you can see, if you look closely, they're very inconsistent. If you compare this to my crochet right now, it's very inconsistent, and I didn't even know how to make like the sides straight and a square, so that was a big problem. As you can see, this is very simple because it's just made of single crochets from the start to the end, and then just adding up rows as I do. This is the very first project I made, as you can see. So if you're a beginner, I would definitely suggest this. This was so easy to make and it was so fun, and even now I kept it because I can still wear it. The next project I would recommend for beginners is actually clothes. Now, this is one of the beginner-friendly clothes that I've made in my life. This is very beginner-friendly because it usually just deals with half double crochets here and then just the ribbing, and the ribbing isn't that hard. I'll be linking where the tutorial for this top is at the description below. And this top is like a crochet crisscross halter top. I'll add a picture here for you to see what it looks like when worn. Another beginner-friendly top that I made. Actually, this was one of the very first patterns that I encountered and that I made. It's this like turtleneck style top like this. Now I'll also show a picture here for my very first top that I made in this style. This is absolutely beginner friendly, and I'll drop the link to the tutorial in the description box below. But it's just made of double crochets and it is all over, and I recommend this for beginners. Now let's move on to some tricks and tips that I learned throughout my crochet journey and that I feel like would be very important for beginners. The first tip is count every stitch. Especially if you're following a pattern, it's very, very important to count your stitches. Now, as a beginner, you'd probably miss some stitches along the way because they do look small and you could like mistake them for a single stitch. So by counting your stitches, it will keep you very consistent. I know it's very tiring, but definitely worth it if you want a good outcome and a good product. Over time, when you're already used to it, you don't even need to count your stitches anymore. I don't count my stitches at all now that I'm in this level. But as a beginner, please, please, please count your stitches. Next tip, of course, the most obvious tip is practice. Now, you are not gonna be perfect overnight. You're not gonna make it right overnight, and it's gonna look ugly and inconsistent at the start, and that's normal. That's just a sign that you need more practice. You need to do it as much as you can to get better. I would recommend to practice at least once in a day if you want to improve really fast. Make time for you to practice every day, but don't force yourself, and only crochet when you're in a good mood. And that actually leads me to my next point, which is only crochet when you are not stressed. Now, this is very ironic because a lot of people are like, you should crochet because it makes you calm and everything. But if you're a beginner, I swear crochet is gonna piss you off. And that's not a bad thing, but like as a beginner, you want to learn it directly, you want it to be right directly, but that is not how crochet works. Don't stress too much about not being good now. And know that you have to do it as a beginner when you're not stressed and when you're calm and peaceful. And just think of it as a project and that you're learning from it and that there's nothing to lose when you're crocheting. Now, the final tip I have for you guys, and something which is very important for me personally, pick a project that interests you. For example, the reason why I got really interested in continuing and pursuing crochet is because the end goals and the outputs that I was creating with crochet through the patterns I was learning was something I really, really wanted to have in my closet. Like, I was looking at the pictures and like, wow, this is an amazing shirt to have in my closet, and it's something I really want to have. And as I had a shopping addiction, I was really, really motivated to make those tops. So make sure you start with a crochet project that you're very interested in. So that will motivate you to continue and continue because the end goal is something you are really willing to work on. Now let's move on to the final segment of this video, and it's gonna be the question and answer portion. Now, I've gathered the most common questions I get about crochet from my TikTok and my Instagram. So if you want to ask me questions, then feel free to ask me there. Now, the first question that I commonly get is, what yarn do I use the most? As I said earlier, I really love individual yarn, and this is the most common yarn I use. However, there are yarns that I use for specific projects. For example, I use milk cotton yarn for bucket hats and for sweaters and cardigans. I don't recommend making sweaters and cardigans with individual yarn. However, you can make bucket hats with individual yarn. I just haven't tried yet. I will soon. Always use this all the time, and all my clothes are all individual. Well, most of them. There are some exceptions that I made from the start, but generally individual yarn. The next question is, how long does it take to learn? I also said this a while ago, the learning process is different for everyone. I learned quite fast. Some people I know have taken like over a year to learn and they're still at my level of crocheting. However, don't let that discourage you. If you're really dedicated, just like I was, I really had an obsession with crochet, I'm sure you will develop the learning part very fast. How many days do I finish one top? Now, generally, when I'm not stressed, I can finish a top in around 2 days. And also like the simple crop tops, by the way, those take me about 2 days when I'm not stressed. But for example, now I have school and I do get orders from other people. It takes me sometimes almost a week and other times a month if I'm very stressed and I have a lot of orders. But I'm very thankful my buyers are so kind and understanding to me that they're willing to wait, and I always take mental health breaks, so that's also very important for me. Can you wash crochet clothes? Yes, you can wash crochet clothes. However, they can only be hand washed and you have to treat them very carefully. For example, you can't, like in the Philippines, we wash our clothes like this with our hands. With crochet items, you cannot do that because you will ruin the quality of the yarn and the top. What you do is you put some water in a pail and then you put your detergent and you put the crochet top or the crochet item that you're washing in that pail, and then you just squish it for a bit, not too much, and then you rinse it and then add fabric softener. I personally use fabric softener because it really helps a lot, by the way, so I recommend using fabric softener when you're dealing with crochet tops. Are crochet tops itchy? For me, I haven't really tried a yarn that is itchy on the skin for tops. As I said earlier, every yarn is different and sometimes the manufacturer being different could also affect the quality of the yarn. So it's very important to do your research on what kind of yarn you're going to use to make sure it's soft, and the manufacturer you're buying from to make sure you're getting high quality yarns. Of course, I'm going to list my links for where I buy my yarn for my Filipino viewers. For the international viewers though, I don't have any links for you, but there are definitely a lot that you can buy in your local stores. Milk cotton yarn and the Indophil yarn I use are very soft, and despite me having very sensitive skin, I can get like itchy skin so easily, so I have very sensitive skin. These two for me really don't do anything to my skin and they're very soft and I love them. However, acrylic does bother my skin and it makes it very itchy, so that's why I stray away from acrylic a lot when it comes to crochet top. Is it tiring and does it hurt your hands? Yes, I am not gonna lie to you guys, it does really tire me a lot, especially when I'm making my orders. I'm not saying that I'm tired of making orders because I'm very thankful for that. It's just that when you do it consecutively without breaks and you're trying to hit a deadline, it can get very overwhelming and you can get physically and emotionally tired, and also as well as mentally. And also I have like a bit of the bumps on my fingers like this. Like there's a bump on my finger. Although I'm not trying to scare you, but that's just the reality of crochet. You have to suffer a bit, but you know, it's so worth it to make your own stuff. And I don't even think about it that much. It doesn't really hurt as much and it's totally fine for me. So this is where our video ends, and I'm so grateful for everyone who's watching this video. I really hope you learned a lot, and I hope that you can take away a lot from this video and that you're gonna start crochet. If ever you do start crochet and you make a project and you're inspired by me, please tag me because it would really make me so happy. And also don't forget to comment down below suggestions for like next and following videos. It doesn't necessarily have to be crochet, it could be about my life and everything. But if you want to comment about video suggestions for crochet, then I'll definitely do them for everyone. I'm planning to do some beginner crochet tutorials for you guys, so stay tuned for that. And to all my TikTok followers and supporters, thank you so much. You guys are the best and you guys motivate me every single day, and I'm so happy. And I hope you guys are doing well, and feel free to message me on my socials. I'll link them down below. And again, thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you learned a lot. See you guys in my next video. Bye!